Hey kids, it's me again. Thank you for joining me in another episode of Miss Vega Says What. In the last video, we talked about how it might feel the day after we've gotten in trouble, or if we often feel like we are the bad kid. Okay, so I talked to you guys about that in this video where we practice choice and reflection so we can choose to to get in trouble less per class period, or watch what it is that gets us in trouble with our teachers. Like if we talk too much, then maybe we could observe ourselves how much we talk in one class and try to make it less the next day. Or maybe we can do it by periods where you talk a lot in your first 3 periods and talk less in your next 2 periods. Anyway, this video is not about that. I did want to conclude it though for the adults that are talking, or excuse me, the adults that are listening or watching. And I'm going to compare this, and I do kind of hate that it's comparable to this, but it is the most comparable to this. So let's say you're an adult and you are trying to make better food choices. So let's say on Monday you made maybe 3 poor food choices, and then you reflect, right? Which is what I had the kids do, reflect and choose which ones do I want to do. Do I want to make fit choices or unfit choices? So the next day, Tuesday, it's really hard on the human body to just go from a lot of poor choices to all 100% good choices, right? So you could do like 2 choices that are maybe junk food or whatever, and then forego that last time that your conscience is like, don't do it. Even a half-C counts. So even if a half-C counts for an adult that's trying to lose weight, we also want to count the halves or the reductions in our children's behavior when they seem to be disruptive or whatever it is that's getting them in trouble in class. Anyway, so this video is actually not about that. I always want to compare it to an adult mentality or an adult mindset so you guys can understand how really challenging it is for a kid who maybe is prone to getting called out for being disruptive in class or talkative or not paying attention to all of a sudden have to change to a different type of human being, essentially. So this video, thank you for watching my recap, is actually about reducing I language. So the way I will explain that is by just explaining it, I guess. I'll explain it to the adults, and I'll also explain it for the kids. So firstly, for the adults, what I mean by reducing I language is that often we see our child, whether it be our student or the child we take care of, our biological child, or your child. We often want to talk to them or instill maybe good manners or good values in them, but we do it in this way. We say things like, well, when I was a kid, if I had done that, I would have. And it does make sense. That is how adults communicate to each other, but that's from adult to adult. You guys have the same schema, which is like your background information of the generation in which you grew up in. And also that's just how adults relate to each other, right? Like, oh, when I was a kid, my mom did this. When you were a kid, maybe your mom did that. It's a little bit more of an intellectual conversation that requires a certain level of empathy. And it's not that kids don't have it. It's just that they can't access that because, no offense, but we were born in the 1000s. Our birthday starts with 19. And to children, that seems really, really significant. Like they're probably seeing a prairie and wagons, right? And so we're talking to them like, oh, well, when I was a kid, if I did that, or when I was a kid, and it is a way for you to connect, but it's actually causing a disconnect in that way. So the way you want to reframe it is by saying it like this. Well, I remember when I was a kid, it used to be like this, but now in society, we are expected to, and then you insert whatever lesson it is that you're wanting to talk about. Or you could say like, or you could even forego that first part about when I was a kid, or just say like, well, once you have a job, you're expected to behave in this way or to not do these things, right? And so it sounds less judgmental. And I mean, it is also objective in this way, right? Whereas like, well, when I was a kid, it's a little bit more subjective because times have changed. We didn't grow up with TikTok. We didn't grow up with YouTube. So it puts a distance between what you're trying to communicate and what the kids hear. So that's how I suggest reducing I language is by when you're talking to kids about, manners or lessons on respect, things like this, you want to use phrases like, well, like if you go into the workforce or out in society, if you did things like that. And again, if your child kind of pushes back or if your student pushes back and they're like, but I am still a kid, but I'm not at work. Totally. But guess what? I am your teacher and your caregiver, and I want to prepare you for the future since you're not going to go backwards and you're not also going to stay a stagnant child forever. Okay, so my tip for kids is this is just the flip side of the coin. I think kids nowadays with social media, which I'll talk about probably a little bit in my videos, but please don't misunderstand. I have nothing against social media. But kids, I do think they want to talk to parents, caregivers, and teachers a little bit more and have more conversation. But having worn a mask for a long time really quieted them. And especially if they're tweens, they're already kind of introspective and become withdrawn. And then the mask and quarantine and things like this. And those were life-saving measures, so nothing against it, right? But it did quiet them in certain ways where they were already going quiet. So for kids, my tip to you is when you reduce I language, if you want to talk to an adult, a grown-up, right, about something that you're going through, is instead of saying, hey, can I talk to you? Because hey, can I talk to you is scary to the person saying it and scary to the person hearing it. So instead of saying that, you could just reframe it and say, hey, can we hang out? Or do you want to hang out? Something like that. And it doesn't have to be like a whole hangout with pizza rolls, just like a quick thing where you're talking to your grown-up about whatever it is that's on your mind, right? And the reason that you want to move away from, hey, can I talk to you? Or mom, I have something to tell you, is because that does elicit feelings of nervousness in your body, and you're already, some of you, right, are already kind of nervous about talking to your parents anyway. But if you make it a we, right, like, can we hang out? You, kid, might feel like you're an I and might feel like you're alone, but your caregiver, whoever it is that you have this conversation with, they always consider you guys a we. Y'all are a team, or they feel you to be as a team. But when you're sitting in that moment, having whatever it is that's on your mind, you just feel really isolated. So go from, hey, I got to tell you something, mom, which kind of already puts like an energy of like, oh my gosh, somebody's in trouble, when really it could just be something fine, right? And then move it to, can we hang out? And just like hang out for a little bit. You could even start off by showing them like your favorite TikTok video, something quick, and then get into what it is that's on your mind. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I am excited to make more for you. Please like and subscribe and share with one person who you think might benefit from the topics I'll cover. Thank you so much.